What is up, y'all? AJ here at Doc's, but obviously we are not at Doc's. We are in my car. And to be honest, I was on my way out the car, as you could tell by the strap. But then I had an idea to just create a video explaining the Doc's programming system, okay? Now, James Clear, author of Atomic Habits, one of my favorite books in the game, I actually see Atomic Habits more of as a tool than a book. And if you have not read it, I highly recommend. But he talks about systems over goals. And in my opinion, I've always leaned towards systems over goals as well, because I feel like when you have a solid system, then the goals essentially will take care of itself. Within those systems, you create habits, and next thing you know, you are on the trajectory to reaching said goals. And now, given the fact that I'm a kettlebell coach and gym owner, my system is based around creating workouts, creating a community, and doing the best that I can to help people reach those goals. But in order for you to do that, or for me to do that, for others, and for myself, it's about creating a system. Now, I'll be honest, I think I would say that I accidentally created this system for myself, not only in terms of my own personal experience, but also having incredible mentors in my life, one of which a good friend of mine, Tom Sher, who introduced me to kettlebells when I was 16 years old, which was 20 years ago. Another good friend of mine, Ed Harold, who has an amazing account, and he really dives deep into breathing, more specifically nasal breathing. Another huge mentor of mine. Now, without further ado, I'm just going to discuss a little bit about the Doc's programming system, which helps me mold the types of workouts I put together over at Doc's Fitness. And honestly, it's 3 phases, or 3 steps, if you want to call it. And you could take this and just run with it. Phase 1, or step 1, is figuring out what the 7 functional movement patterns are of everyday life, okay? And an easy way for you to remember this is the acronym PHLURPS. PHLURPS, okay? PHLURPS. I know it's insane, but I feel like if you're anything like me, having little acronyms or certain things that are hysterical help to stay within your mind, okay? And it goes as follows. P, the first P, is push. The second letter, H, which is hinge. L, which is load. U, which is unilateral. R, which is rotation. The second P is pull. And then the last letter is S, PHLURPS. Now, the reason as to why I put it in that specific order is, one, it spells FLURPS, which I don't know what the hell that is, but maybe that's a word. I don't think it is, though. But more so because the first 5 letters are of that acronym, fall into the Turkish Get-Up, okay? So if you are somebody who's looking to learn the Turkish Get-Up, you focus up on those, or if you are somebody who is finding out a reason why you should learn the Turkish Get-Up, it's because those first 5 functional movement patterns of the 7 are within the Turkish Get-Up itself. That's a whole nother video, okay? So step 1 of the Doc's programming system is figuring out what the 7 functional movement patterns are. Step 2 is associating a movement to each one of those movement patterns, functional movement patterns, okay? Now, I will run through each one of them briefly, and I will give a beginner, an intermediate, and an advanced movement to each one of those functional movement patterns, some of which will be body weight, some of which will be with the kettlebell, okay? So we'll first and foremost go with E, okay? The first letter. Beginner, from the knee, or regular push-up. Intermediate would be a finger thumb press, where it's 2 hands on the bell pressing overhead. Advanced will be a strict press, okay? One side pressing up. Stands for hinge. Beginner, sumo deadlift. Intermediate, 2-handed kettlebell swing. Advanced, single arm kettlebell swing. L stands for load, which in other words is carries or marches. Basically holding a bell for a long period of time, creating time under tension, okay? For beginner, suitcase carry or suitcase march, where you're holding the bell on one side, marching in place. For intermediate, goblet carry. So having the bell up just below the chin, elbows in nice and tight, marching or carrying in that position. And then for advanced, offset march or carry, or you could flip that bell upside down to turn it into a bottoms up march or carry. Very, very challenging in that regard. The next letter is U for unilateral, which in other words, it's lunging in either direction. There's a lot of different angles that you can follow. For beginner, it would be body weight reverse lunges or forward lunges. For intermediate, goblet grip, okay, so you're holding the bell by the horns, reverse lunges or forward lunges. And then for the advanced side, you could go offset position, similar to what you would be doing with the march or carry. Reverse lunge with a knee drive, so that if you're holding the bell on the right side, you step back with the left and then drive that knee up to the sky. So you're working balance right there as well. The next letter, rotation, okay, R, okay, following the script, same script here. Beginner would be performing a Turkish roll-up, body weight style. For intermediate would be adding weight to that Turkish get-up, or I'm sorry, adding weight to that Turkish roll-up. And then for the advanced would be performing a full Turkish get-up all the way through start to finish. I believe I said Turkish roll-up, but that's what I'm saying for the first two. Okay, so Turkish roll-up beginner, body weight, intermediate, Turkish roll-up with a weight, advanced version, performing a full Turkish get-up, up and down. Okay, what's next? The next P would be pull. Okay, beginner would be performing bent rows, so you're standing over the bell, pulling yourself on up. For intermediate, be performing goblet curls. Nope, I flipped that back. For beginner, it would be goblet curls, so you're just performing a pull position right here, curling it out. For intermediate, it then would be performing bent rows, so you're standing over top of the bell, pulling that elbow into the rib cage. And then for advanced, you'd be performing pull-ups in some capacity. And then finally, squats. For S, beginner, body weight squats, intermediate, goblet squats, advanced, offset squats, or you can really level it up and turn that bell upside down to bottoms up squats. Okay, step one, identifying what the 7 functional movement patterns are, which you do with PHLURPS, PHLURPS. Step 2 is associating a movement with each one of those letters or each one of those 7 functional movement patterns. And then step 3 is implementing those movements that you just wrote down into a workout, okay? Now, I'm going to just give you briefly some of the styles of workouts that I like to incorporate over in my gym at Doc's Fitness, okay? And they're all going to fall into one of 2 categories, kettlebell cardio or kettlebell strength. Kettlebell cardio will generally be going for time, so it's minimal rest. Kettlebell strength generally is rest as needed, taking your time, and if you have access to multiple kettlebells, then you're going up in weight as you go down in reps, or you go up in weight as you go from round to round to round, okay? So the first style of training that I like to incorporate are called AMQRAP, AMQRAP, as many quality rounds as possible. And the reason I put that Q in there is to work as a bit of a reminder to focus on slowing yourself down and focusing on the technique of the movement. And this falls more into the kettlebell strength side of things. So let's just say you put the timer for 30 minutes, you have a 30-minute AMQRAP, list out what movements you're going to be doing based off of your level, beginner, intermediate, and advanced, and then just continue to go through those movements as an AMQRAP, as many quality rounds as possible, okay? Now, from the AMRAP side, which is kettlebell cardio side, you're going as many rounds as possible, okay? Obviously, you still want to stick with good form, so you can imagine that there's a Q in there, because at the end of the day, we really want to hone in on our form and make sure that we're doing these movements correctly and safely, but you perform it at a quicker pace, and there's minimal rest in between each one of the rounds. In this case, going the route where it's kettlebell cardio side, I would focus up on actually trying to count how many rounds you get within that 30 minutes. And I keep alluding to 30 minutes because, in my opinion, for me, well, me personally, I like getting workouts done within 30 minutes. And that's just the MO that I have. That's a part of the Doc's programming system over at Doc's Fitness, okay? So as many rounds as possible. That's the second part of the AMQRAP, AMRAP style. Kettlebell strength, kettlebell cardio. The next would be the kettlebell ladder. And a simple ladder that anybody can perform is the 10 to 2. So in this case, it would be 10 reps, 8 reps, 6 reps, 4 reps, and 2 reps. And you can go in either direction, a kettlebell strength, where if you have access and the luxury of having multiple bells, you go up in weight as you go down in those reps, okay? Whereas the kettlebell cardio side is you pick one light to medium sized bell, whatever you're using, and you go for time. you see how quickly and safely you can get done that 10, 8, 6, 4, 2 rep scheme all the way down. Then the final one is timed intervals, where in this case, you don't have to worry about counting reps or anything like that, and you focused on working for a set period of time and then resting for a set period of time. Now, in this sense, one way that I like to focus up on the strength side of things when it's a timed interval is less working time and then more rest time. For instance, a 30 on, 30 off. So let's just say you pick 5 of those movements and you perform each one of those movements for 30 seconds and then you break for 30. 30 seconds, break for 30, and so on. And you, let's just say it's 5 movements. So then you would do it for 6 rounds, which would make 30 minutes. In terms of the kettlebell cardio side, you would have a longer rest or longer working time, less rest time. In this case, 45 seconds on, 15 seconds off. Obviously, you're going to be able to do more reps and then less rest time. So it's going to be a little bit more taxing on the endurance and the stamina, really testing the heart rate. Okay. In this case, you're focusing on a light to medium sized bell, depending on what those movements are. Okay. Now, I have a number of different workout styles that I can continue to go on, but I'm just going to keep it just to those 3 right there. All right. So I hope this helped. This in itself, just in a nutshell of Doc's programming system, something that I think, well, that has worked for me for a number of years, that I've not only practiced for myself, but for hundreds, if not thousands of people with all the workouts that I share online that I get, positive feedback on. But my goal and intention of this video is for you to take this and run with it. Okay. I love programming more than the next probably 20 people combined. I don't know why. It's a sick thing that I have in my mind. I legitimately, this is right hand to God, I have a notepad next to my bed where sometimes I will wake up in the middle of the night after having a dream, although some people call it a nightmare because some of the workouts that I put together can be very nightmare-esque. And then I will go to my notepad and I will write down certain workouts, okay? But I hope this helps. This is just an easy or somewhat easy way to create a programming system for yourself. Again, figure out what those 7 functional movement patterns are, which again, follow the acronym PHLURPS, P-H-L-U-R-P-S. The second one is identifying certain movements that are associated to each one of those functional movement patterns or each one of those letters. And you could simply just write that acronym out, and then next to it, just write down movements that fit each one of those, categorize it for beginner, intermediate, and advanced, and then finally, figure out what style of workouts that you enjoy performing. And again, this video is not only great for beginners, but for intermediates, advanced kettlebellers out there, and obviously for the coaches out there who are running with the kettlebell. All right, so again, AJ here at Doc's. I'm now officially going to go out of my car and make myself some lunch. Hope everybody has a great day. Let's go.